Hello and welcome back to the show. We are fast approaching Christmas, which is a little bit crazy for me to think of because I'm really not ready. I have no decorations up, we don't have a tree yet, and I still have a few prezzies to get. So, yeah, lacking behind a little bit, but all is good. It will all come together. I am positive of it. So, in this episode, what I wanted to do was shift around what I plan to do, or what I usually do with the New Year Revolution. I normally do that in the few days in between Christmas and New Year. But actually, I've got ahead of myself in this one aspect, which is actually doing my whole reflection piece, which actually takes me quite some time, which is why I usually leave it for that in between period. But I was really in the mood to do it on Monday this week. So I allowed myself some space and time to do it. And so we're going to do phase one today, which is the reflection piece and the review of the year, which is going to help us really inform how we set about focusing our efforts into the new year and setting those powerful New Year revolutions that are going to stick. These are intentions, goals that are actually going to stick rather than um, getting to the end of next year and, finding yourself in the same situation as you perhaps do every year, where you're setting the same old boring resolutions that fade by middle of January, right? Hands up if you've been guilty of setting New Year's resolutions that don't go anywhere. It's a very natural thing to do. They are oftentimes fully loaded with these like big ideas of what we just want to get rid of or stop doing or um like t a total overhaul, right? And they're often empty in the sense that they don't really have um some real weighted reasons why you want to do it. And this is what we do in the New Year Revolution. We go quite deep, in fact, in terms of like why it is you want to do these things, why you don't already have it yet, and how you can set those like real tangible goals to help you actually meet that throughout the year. So today we are doing a year in review. So I'm going to give you my year in review, but first I'm going to start with the process that I go through. And to support this kind of process, if you like, there is a downloadable workbook. It's completely free. You just need to put your email address in to get it sent to your inbox. And this is just going to offer you the structure, a few extra prompts that I probably won't cover off today because I don't want to go into all the detail. But this is really going to allow you, it's going to be a companion to sit down and go through the process together and hopefully come out with some really powerful goals. All right. So we don't want to be setting the same old goals and intentions. We do want to be doing things differently, and that's what we are aiming to do in this phase. All right. So the first thing we do is sit down, and I like to go through my calendar, first of all, because my memory is shocking and I couldn't tell you what I did back in January and February. I did actually remember that I went to Tenerife and I had this horrible 100-day cough in the first 4 months of the year that just didn't seem to do one. So I remembered that much, but apart from that, yeah, I had a bit of a memory blank. So I tend to open my calendar on my laptop or on my phone and just literally scroll through and remind myself of where I was, who I was with, the things that I did, the conversations that I had, some of the trainings that I might have done, all that kind of thing. And the other thing I love to do, which does again take a bit of time, but it's actually really quite cathartic, is to go back through my phone on my photos on my phone. So I literally scrolled right back to the 1st of January and took my time just coming back through my photos because there are, I don't know if about you, but I've got like 40,000 odd photos on my phone. So obviously there's a fair chunk from this year. So what I did at the time, I was a little bit obsessive over it, but I did also do some cleaning up. So I deleted some photos that weren't like things that I wanted to hold on to, or screenshots of things that for at the time. So I really had like this quite good run through the year through my calendar and through my photos. And what I do is I just take messy notes in my I've got my one note my super note here, so it's like a bit of a it's a digital, no, it's not digital, it's like a it's basically it. Do you know what I mean? I'm showing it to you. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can see it. It's like a t tablet form, but it's like you're writing on paper, the closest thing to paper. So it's like got all my folders in here. So if I look down, that's what I'm doing. I'm referring to my notes as I took them. Um, One thing I then like to do once I've sort of taken these rough, messy notes about all the things, the places I went to, the holidays I went on, the things I saw, the moments that I remembered when I went through my photos, all that kind of thing, is I do this little process where on one side of the page, on the left-hand side of the page, I would write 2024 equals, and I would just think of all the things. I call it clearing the junk in your trunk. So I would think of all the like negative things that came up when I think of 2024, and there was a few, right? Because um I mean, we had a crap summer here in the UK, so that that sort of thing comes out, like the resentment that I had, like a lack of sun, this summer. Um, so 2024 equals just like literally line by line, go down and bring up all the stuff that you relate to that is not so pretty, right? The if I have to say it in quotes, bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the stuff that you want to forget, but is still kind of lingering. Perhaps there were resentments or regrets or um, sadness or grief or things that you went through in 2024. Get it all out onto the paper. So 2024 equals, and repeat it, 2024 equals shit summer, 2024 equals 100-day cough, 2024 equals multiple colds in the first quarter of the year. 2024 equals giving my energy away to too many things that are not important to me. 2024 equals whatever it is, and like literally exhaust yourself of all those things on that left-hand side of the page. Then what we're going to do is kind of just give a nod to those things. And I always say they're better out than in, right? Because if they're staring at you in the on the page from where you've just written it, um, it was inside of you. Like literally we might think of these things like, oh, I've got to think of some stuff. But actually when you get into it, when you get into a rhythm of it, stuff just starts to come up. And all of this is where we're going deeper and we're actually realizing what is still kind of beneath the surface that perhaps we've like pushed down and just forgotten about and like left for a rainy day or whatever. Well, this is your rainy day to bring it up, to drag it up and get it out. And then what we can do from that place is really intentionally give a nod to it and go, okay, I see you and I'm actually ready to let you go. So we kind of make a statement along the lines of, I release these things and I open myself up to seeing the good in 2024. And on the right hand side, then when you're ready to switch, because we don't want to stay in our junk, right? When you're ready to switch it up, we go 2024 equals some amazing fun days out in the van. 2024 equals some pretty cool beach days. Like I spent a lot of time on the beach when the sun was out. 2024 equals the year I finally got it, like it landed for me in terms of what it is that I'm here to do. 2024 equals more events. 2024 equals my first retreat. 2024 equals the people that I was working with. All of these things get to come out. And actually, when you do this, when you sit down with a piece of paper or your notebook and you literally let it all flow out, you just notice if it's easier to do this positive side than it was perhaps the previous side where it was not so good. I know when I get into a rhythm, it really does give me a nod or an idea as to whether or not the year was more on the heavy side or actually more on the like positive side. And actually, it also brings it into balance as well, right? So these are the things that I do. And in the workbook, it walks you through this, but it also gives you some extra prompts, like what was beautiful about this year. So you really get to like in that reflection, whilst you're taking the time to just look at the year that was 2024, you're just giving yourself a real beautiful moment just to pause and reflect and summarize. Yeah. So for me, what I realized in doing this is I had a year of very much three thirds rather than four quarters. It was three thirds for me. So the first 4 months of the year, I kind of started out January really strong. I was excited. I was going to Tenerife for my dad's 70th birthday. We were surprising him. So we were like coming up with all these lovely things that we like gifts that we were going to do to surprise him. We did, me and my sister and the kids did a beautiful video, kind of a bit of a nod to him and how much we love him. And that was so cool to pull together, and fun to do with the kids. So there was all that. And I was coming like out of the gates, like really strong, feeling really good about where business was going for me. And then I got hit with this 100-day cold. And I remember going to Tenerife and actually really struggling with this, it was cough, sorry, cough. Um, and it was keeping me up at night and I wasn't sleeping. And whilst it was mainly this cough, otherwise I was generally well. I remember having a cold just before that, and I remember having a cold just after that. I recovered from that 100-day cough. So my first third of the year was very much um, me kind of hermiting and feeling quite sorry for myself and doing the bare minimum in business because I was still having to show up for my extra jobs that I was doing. At the pub, I was still there at the time. Um, and the one thing I decided I wanted to do was keep the podcast going. And that's about the time that I switched into doing some more conversations with other people out there doing great work in the world. So I was able to, through my coughs and splutters and my losing my voice, was able to keep the podcast consistency going to actually get some guests on and get them to do some more talking as well. We did, however, get the van refit, which was one of the big goals that I had for last year. We had a combi van at the time, so we got a Volkswagen camper van, and it was combi, so it had three seats in the back, and they folded down, and then the bed folded out. And it just really wasn't practical for the way we wanted to use the van. It certainly wasn't practical for me to go out and work in it like I imagined I would do. So we got that refit in March, and that was an absolute game changer. So that was probably the one thing that really shifted in those first 4 months of the year was how we were using the van after that. The second kind of third was where I came out of that hermit mode. This cough had gone, thankfully. And I was like getting more into that kind of summer vibes. I always find the summer is a super sociable time for me. We went on our first kind of big holiday in the van. We went to the Lake District. We had so much fun. We had beautiful weather the first half. It was typical Lake District weather the second half. Um, but we, yeah, really came out of my cave and just had some more fun times and sociable times in that summer, in those summer months. We had friends and family come to stay with us. So I had friends from South Africa come and stay in the hut in our Airbnb in the garden. I had friends from Spain come over. I had an auntie from Australia came over. Um, and we had friends, like new friends and their family come down and stay with us and just have lots of fun. And I would say I found some real cool spots to work in the van. So I really had this image before I even got the van that I would pack the dog and the laptop in the van and we would go out for the day and like explore the Kent countryside and beach spots and just park up somewhere beautiful and spend the day there. And that's what I did. Like I actually made that a reality. So I found some really cool spots around the coastline in Kent and actually really close to my home as well. So whenever I feel like I'm getting stagnant at my desk, I get up, I shift my energy, we go for a walk, and then we work somewhere differently with a view, usually from like the heights of the cliffs or something like that. I also, like I said earlier, got out and did some beach days. So when it was really lovely, if we got the dog out really early for a cool walk, I would then take myself off for a few hours down the beach. Um, I did take a really intentional break from the podcast over the summer because I knew it was going to be busier. I had my pub job that I was doing 3, 4 times a week, and I also had the Airbnb, which is a busy period during summer. And then I had the food truck that I was taking out, my friend's food truck that I've mentioned before. And that means the weekends are sort of taken up the campsites, serving chicken out of a van, which has always been great fun. But I would say I probably stretched myself way too thin this summer. And, I was tired. I've had very little energy for doing very much else. And that included things like my walk. So actually when I'm doing a 5 hour, 6 hour, 7 hour shift on my feet, the last thing I want to do is then go out for an hour walk. So I was resenting my walks with the dog, whereas normally like walking in nature is something that I absolutely need for my creativity and my like my mental clarity and things like that. So I found that was like quite interesting for me to notice that my energy was being too scattered, and actually bad habits were creeping back in. So I was drinking a lot of Diet Coke, which I haven't done for years. I was starting to rely on coffee and caffeine, which I've never done. Like I've never particularly been a caffeine junkie. I wasn't wanting to go on my walks. I was kind of relying on like sweet foods again, like sugar was coming back into it. And as I mentioned in last week's, or I didn't mention, I went into great detail in last week's episode, The Confessions of a Secret Binge Eater. These are kind of warning signs to me. And the biggest warning sign is my energy levels, my tiredness. Like if I'm not getting enough rest and enough quality sleep and getting on in bed on time, then the rest of my day is kind of screwed. And I reach for those sugary, caffeine fueled fixes, right, to keep me going. And actually, it was getting to the end of August, and I was like, something has to give. And actually, I feel like I'm done here doing all this other stuff, giving myself to all these other things that are not actually the things that I really want to be doing. It's not where I'm going to make the impact in the world that I am here to make. And that's when I decided that I was going to quit the pub. The truck came to an end anyway at the end of the season, 'cause it's very seasonal. And I entered the third of the year, right? The final third of the year. And this is where really stripped it all back to basics. And I got super intentional and super focused. Now I've got this is my current to-do list. If you're watching on YouTube, you can sort of get a gist for it. These are the things I focus on, and I have two things at any one time that I'm focusing on. Um, and then I have all my other little to-do list items that, bigger projects that I want to get to, trainings that I want to go and revisit potentially or watch and spend some time like really going into because they're the things that I'm learning. And then just those like admin items, but two items at any one time that I'm focusing on. And I start this. So my first one was to quit the pub, which I did. And then I was planning on doing a cleanse. And I found these products that my friend had used, and I had been diligently um, researching them to see if this is the sort of cleanse that I wanted to do. And I invested in these products because then they were not cheap. And I set about planning and preparing to do that cleanse. And as part of that cleanse, which was going to be fasted cleanse, over 7 days, which I'd never done before, I wanted to also clean up some other stuff. So in September, it was very much about a house tidy up. So I did like a deep clean, like I was really in spring clean mode in September. I looked at my finances. I got all my spreadsheets up to date. I got my receipts like in order and like all my accounts up to date and in order. And a bit of a plan in terms of like what was like just a bit of financial plan in terms of the end of the year. Um, and I really prepared to do this fast. And put aside 7 days where I had very little on and allowed myself the space to be with whatever was going to come up during this fast. And I expected there to be a lot of stuff come up, right? Based on what you heard last week in terms of my relationship with food in the past. I would never recommend anyone do a 7 day fast for weight loss, for sure. And in the past, that might have been why I would have done it. And this time I was very clear that this was not a weight loss attempt. This was really because I wanted to clean myself up from the inside out. I really wanted to get clean and clear in my energy. I wanted to like stop doing things like drinking caffeine and Diet Coke, and I wanted to stop relying on sweets to get me through the day and really just come back to some sort of balance, homeostasis, if you like. That's the scientific word for finding that balance in your body where your body can do its thing, right? It can do its thing. with nothing like a knock at the door to stop you mid-flow. So yeah, I really wanted to clean it up from the inside out. And so I set about this 7 day fast, and I thought a lot of stuff would come up, like emotionally, because part of it was a intestinal cleanse where you actually release a lot of mucoid plaque. I'll leave the rest of the graphic details to your imagination. And part of it was a liver cleanse. And then it was fasted in terms of like zero food past my lips. And there were products, there were like enzymes and um, digestive aids and fiber and stuff, supplements that you took throughout the 7 days. So it was quite intense in that there was always something to take. There was always a something to drink or like a powder to swallow. And I went through probably more physical than emotional symptoms in that 7 days. But I did it, and actually, it was really quite liberating to do it and to realize that I had come so far with my journey with food that I could do this in this way, in this really like self-led way. I talk about self-leadership, and this I feel like I really led myself through this 7 days. When it got, if it did get tough, which it didn't really, I think in hindsight, I remember like end of day two, I started to feel hungry. And I just was able to rationalize with myself that it is all in my mind. And I went and took myself off and had a bath and went to bed early. And then on day six, I was like really like getting some, because I bought myself an air fryer and a couple of cookbooks. So I was really getting into the like the recipes that I wanted to make, the healthier recipes that I wanted to make coming out of the cleanse. And so yeah, it was really super interesting to feel my hunger come on because I was thinking of food and not for it not to actually be a real hunger that I was experiencing. So it was a super fascinating 7 day experience that I think even Adam was like very impressed with how I coped with it. I think he was expecting me to be a grump and to be like thrashing out because I couldn't eat anything, and I wasn't. I was just like, you like I'd sorted his food out so he didn't have any extra prep to do on his hands because he works full time. But I was just like, you eat on your own, don't expect me to be around the table or whatever. And he was really very supportive in that process. And I would say, as in terms of the results, when I woke up on day, I think it was day six, when you have the release after the liver cleanse, and then you actually release some gallstones. When I knew that had finished, and I was like moving into coming out of the fast, I felt freaking amazing. Like I felt so good. My complexion was clear. I felt so light, and so like that emptiness was actually really a lovely feeling. And one that I wanted to remember because how often do we go through life feeling quite congested and heavy and lethargic almost? But I felt so like free of any of that. I felt energized. I felt ready to take on the world. I absolutely felt amazing. And as a pleasant side effect, I had lost some weight. And I felt, I felt it. I felt it around my gut. I felt it, yeah, just in general, in that sort of moving through life, just felt very light. But the biggest thing for me, I think, that I hadn't realized until I've experienced it was that I experienced a real reduction in my inflammation that I experienced in my body, and especially around my knees and in my legs. So sometimes it would be really hard to like just walk upstairs, and not because I'd be out of breath, but because like my legs just felt so like congested and like swollen. And it was the inflammation that I was carrying. And that was gone after this 7 day fast that I did. And that was by far the biggest reward, I think, for me, was to feel that that lightness in my step came from actually not losing weight, but actually feeling very clean and clear, and having done so much to aid the inflammation in my body and to move it through. So that was an experience and not one that I would have tried even last year or even earlier this year, right? With the kind of vibe. So it's one thing that I will definitely revisit. And fasting for me, I've done a 24-hour fast before a couple of times, but never done anything like 7 days. And I don't think I would ever necessarily want to do it again, but I know I can if I do want to do it again. And I know the results if I do it again. And I think what I want to play with more next year, and this is why we reflect, right? It's because we want it gets to inform our next year. But one thing I do want to play with is fasting for sure. Um, at that time, I also brought back in meal planning and prep. I bought the air fryer, like I said. That has been a game changer for us. It's actually not an air fryer like a Ninja where you shake the tray. It's actually like a little oven that sits on your worktop. It takes up no space at all. It's lovely. It's from our place. I think I have some referral codes if you ever want to like invest in one of them. It's been a game changer. We use it every day, even for things like toast and reheating like yesterday's food or whatever. It really has been a game changer. But more than that, it's is actually getting into that meal planning and prep. So now it's just a habit for me to think, right, okay, got to do the shop tomorrow. So, what meals are we going to have? What am I going to eat during the day? What do I need to have on that shopping list? Just to make it really like super clear and ensure that I've got those things to grab and the convenience foods are going to be healthy foods that I get to grab as well. Um, at the same time as I started that fast, actually, I started a coach to 5K training plan with Run with Will in Dover. And he's my partner Adam's run coach, and he was starting this couch to 5K, but coach to 5K. So he was going to coach us to 5K. And I started that at the same time. So I had gone, I think, with our very first run, I was on day 4, I think, fasted. And on the second run, I was just coming off day 7. So yeah, it was pretty intense, but I was really kind of keen and eager to set myself a physical goal, a physical challenge. And I thought I would never run again, right? With my knees, I've got osteoarthritis, meniscus tears in both knees. I never thought I'd run again. I was just used to having so much pain and that congestion, that slow, sluggish feeling, like we're kind of limping around life. And that was gone. And I hadn't anticipated that being um, so gone in actually doing the fast. But actually, it meant that felt better. I felt good to get out there and go for a run. And actually, at the time of recording, we are coming up to the end of week 12, which is where on Saturday we actually go for our 5K park run. And we're up to 8 minute stints, 8 times 4 with a 1 minute break. Tomorrow, I think, is our last training session, and we go down to a 45-second break. So just like priming us for going out and running the 5K as a group, which has been just so much fun for me to do something with other people, not just do it on my own, which I've done. I've done 5Ks in the past. I've done it with my mum, or I've done it on my own with a like an online trainer. And this was just such a beautiful way to do it. So if you ever want to do something like that, if you've got a challenge that you want to set yourself, I always say, go look for a group of other people that are doing it because it's so much better together. Um, I also started, so I wasn't gonna go all out, but once we got into the running, I started going, I want to get back in the gym. I want to do some like HIIT workouts. I want to get under the bar. I want to start lifting weights again. So I started doing that, and I've gone from like doing nothing. My workout, if you like, was my step count based on the fact that I was working a waitressing shift for 5, 6 hours, going out on a dog walk. I'd do like average 18,000 steps a day if I was working. So that was in my mind, that was my workout, and it's not really a workout. You're just on your feet, getting very tired. So yeah, that was great to mix that up. So that was all the kind of like physical stuff that I did with really wanting to have that intention to like bring back my energy. I haven't had caffeine. So I do have one coffee a day. It's an oat milk coffee a day that I have, but it's decaf. I haven't had it. I've had maybe 2 Diet Cokes when I've gone out as a like not even a treat, just a drink, just something different than water or kombucha. And I've drank less alcohol, I think, this year than ever. Like it really hasn't, it's just been a very natural, I can say no. I'd rather drive, I'd rather save money than actually feel like I do. And I've had a couple of instances this year where we have opened a bottle of red wine on a Saturday night, for example, and I have been ill after drinking red wine. So there's less alcohol that I want to drink, and this is my kombucha. This is my collagen. It's another thing that I do now, having cultivated some really small habits off the back of this fast, is I now take my supplements and my collagen. That's also going to help me with my inflammation ongoing. So, so yeah, all of this has happened, and in this third of the year, and one thing I'm really impressed about is like how quickly my fitness is returning now I'm out running. And like from that first week where I thought, oh my God, how like we ran for a minute and we walked for two, I think. And I was like, how am I going to run 5K in 12 weeks' time? And here I am going, oh, I'm excited because actually this week felt quite not easy, but perfectly doable. So I'm confident that even though it's going to be a new challenge on Saturday, that I'm gonna smash it. So really happy with that increased fitness and how quick it's been. It's really spurred me on for next year. And then I can't leave this third of the year without talking about my retreat that I did, which was really um after spending some time at my sister's house, which is the Margate Beach house where I hosted the retreat. We were chatting about how because it's an Airbnb, she rents it out. It's also a location house for like photo shoots and stuff. And I was like, I need to host a retreat. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And I just was so behind it, like so into it, so excited about the experience that people were going to get that pretty much sold out. I had one ticket left. I had space for one more, really. It's a beautiful space where eight people is the perfect number, plus me and my sister, who were co-host with me. So 10 of us in a room. And it was just the most perfect experience ever. We had the best weather, given it was November. We just the blend of people that came together, the conversations that we had, not just in the sessions, but over lunch and since then. It was just truly just a wonderful experience that I set up another one and pretty much sold that out. I have, at the time of recording, I have two tickets left, and I am doing a little flash sale over between now and Christmas because yeah, I want to sell those last two tickets to someone that really wants to be there and take that time out for themselves in the new year to really get grounded and focused on what it is they want and what's important to them moving into the new year. So check out the show notes. If you want to come, you can join us. And the I will leave the coupon code to get your 25% off in the show notes. So check those out. I wasn't planning on talking about that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like really, I guess, how I would like sum up my review of my reflections on this year. And I really encourage you to do the same because what this does is it really helps us inform how we want to move into next year. All right. So there are some, like I said, extra prompts in the workbook that you get to print off or just open up as a PDF document. I don't think you can actually complete it, but it's one that you can use as the as a prompt, like I say, accompany your journaling session. But yeah, to carve some time out between now and the end of the year to really do this justice. And there are questions like what are the things that you're letting go of? What are things you want to hold on to as you move into the next year? What are you simplifying and making easier? All of these things come from that review that you've just done. So that is my year in review. And just to sum it up, I guess, thanks to last year, I know for sure that I am meant to hold a really safe and sacred space for women to be 100% fully themselves and feel accepted and like they belong and like they are more than enough. And that's what I did on my first retreat, and that's why I will continue to do those because I've put it off for long enough, and it was just such a beautiful experience that I want more of you to experience that. So get yourself along to one of those. One word or phrase to sum up this year for me, my word of the year at the beginning of the years was devotion. That was the word I chose for 2024. But actually, I feel like that devotion only came in that third. And how I would sum up the whole year is that I've had a kind of full circle moment. So it's not one word, but it's a phrase, a full circle moment, because actually where I've landed in my business is just this beautiful reminder of actually it's what it's always been. So whilst I've gone off on these little tangents and I've got distracted along the way and I've done all these other little things to sort of give me some um, instant gratification, actually what it's always been about is helping or showing women how to come back to themselves. It's that homecoming, it's that reclamation of self, and it's actually being fully themselves and okay with who they are and fully accepting and even like loving of themselves. So I've had that full circle moment. And moving into next year, I am definitely open to taking bigger risks, to failing faster, to not getting so caught up in like all the shiny objects and distractions, to taking on more responsibility, more clients, more impact, more influence in the world. And something I'm letting go of is getting distracted, totally getting distracted, and just having more focus in my life. Um, so yeah, that's how I would sum things up. That is gonna lead us nicely into the week in between New Year. The episode that's gonna drop there is how we then refocus ourselves and take what we've just learned about this year and have that inform where we focus our efforts next year. All right. And then in the new year, we're going to get on to our 2025 game plan. And yeah, I'm super excited. So if you're listening before Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful time. Remember that the best thing you can do is be fully present for your loved ones on Christmas Day. So put that phone down, turn the TV off, get the games out, put the music on in the background, drink, eat, be merry, and yeah, I wish you and your loved ones a wonderful time. And if you're listening afterwards, I hope it was fabulous. And until next time, I will see you then. Take care, and yeah, happy Christmas.